back, everyone, to Artists Supporting Artists Thursday. Today, we have an incredible guest with us, Elijah Harris, who will be sharing his journey and insight into the world of being a motivational speaker, a dad, a husband, and just an all around awesome person. Elijah, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Whitney, thank you so much. I've been watching, I've been listening and admiring from afar. So it's an honor to be here. So thank you for having me and giving me a chance to share.
Absolutely. It's good to have you here. You're definitely an inspiration. And I think that a lot of the viewers and a lot of our listeners are going to be in for a treat on this ride. And we're all going to take a little bit of Elijah Harris home with us and hold on to that. So let's dive right in. Can you share your journey into motivational speaking? Like what inspired you to take that path?
Honestly, I think it was a part of my life journey. I kind of stumbled into it as I was discovering myself and just kind of figuring out what some of my gifts were. So when I first started basically creating content, on social media and making videos and things like that. For me, it was actually rooted in Christian hip hop. It was rooted in music. And for me, like Christian hip hop was something that I found solace in. I always felt like I was a little bit of an outsider, like in my friend groups and stuff like that. I loved music from a young age, always like growing up and everything, but I never found that one genre that like really stuck with me and spoke to me. And as I got a little bit older, I found Christian hip hop. Like in college, like late high school, college years, I found Christian hip hop. And that was like a subgenre within hip hop that obviously is still hip hop, but it kind of tied to some of my values, like, as I grew up and stuff. And so when I found it, I was like, oh, this is kind of hard right here. Like I like this. I like this. And it really spoke to me and it like gave me a place of uh like a place where I felt like I belonged. But I didn't know too many people that listened to it or that really knew anything about it. So like I would share it with like some of my friends and stuff and like get them to listen to it. But after a while I was like, yeah, I just want to talk about it. Like I just want to tell people about it and kind of open their eyes up to some of this, impactful music that I was discovering. And so I just started making videos. I started talking about songs that I knew, artists that I was learning about, like, and some of the messages that were in them, and really starting to make it kind of relatable. And so I went from talking about the music to kind of taking the messages and parlaying into talking about life. And I started to see that like people were listening to what I was saying. And I started to see like, well, the things that I'm saying, like they carry weight. Like people are actually paying attention to what I'm saying, and that meant something to me. And before all of this, I didn't really know like what I was passionate about or what I was really wanting to explore in my life. So as I found this and I started to discover my voice in it, I'm like, huh, I actually kind of like this. Like this is fulfilling for me. And so that kind of evolved into just continuing to use my voice and create content and create videos and stuff, but pouring into people. It's always been rooted in inspiring and pouring into people. And so I found that I had a gift. Growing up, I didn't talk a whole lot. Like I was never really loud or outspoken. But when I talk, people listen. And I realized that. And I was like, huh, there's some power here. And so I took it as an opportunity to expand, not just to talking about music, but just talking about life skills and life experiences and making it relatable and ultimately kind of using it to motivate and inspire people. And that was kind of how I stumbled my way into this space. And I enjoy it. I enjoyed it. It's given me you know, some confidence in myself that I didn't have before. But it was just my way of finding my space and finding a gift that who knew was inside of me. It was in there, but I had to find it. I had to find it.
I love that. Yeah, I want to circle back to something that you said, finding power in your voice. I think that is so important. And at what moment did you realize that your voice was powerful enough to make people stop and listen? Like,
I mean, I can think of a couple maybe, as I started to to make these videos and like put out this content and stuff, people would listen. And honestly, it didn't really matter to me how many people were listening, as long as there was maybe one person that took away from something that I was saying. I remember some of my friends and stuff would be like, when are you gonna start the church? Like, just go off my goal, but the fact that people were saying that meant something to me, and a couple people actually said that. One of my grandmothers said that to me. Um, when you start the church, just let me know and I'll follow you. And I'm just like, people are really listening to what I'm saying. And then there's people that reach out to me on occasion, just like via DM and just say like, you know, this topic that you spoke on really hit me. Like it impacted me in this place of life that I'm in right now. Like, and recently about feeling like you're worthy of, the excellence or the success that you have in front of you. A lot of people don't feel like they're worthy of what they have the opportunity to do, or things that they actually accomplish. They feel like, maybe I wasn't worthy for that. Um, I think it really speaks to them. And I just those instances where people reach back out to me and be like, E, you really hit me, like you really touched me, with something that you said, like that sticks with me. And not that I necessarily need validation, but it gives me, that, I guess, that confirmation, like the path that you're taking, and how you're walking, there's a purpose in it. And so it's kind of kept me going, I think, in at times when maybe I even lose sight of myself in these little moments. But yeah, but things like that, they stick with me.
Okay, okay. No, I love that. And I totally agree. I think sometimes we don't see our gifts, our internal gifts, and other people see them, and it sometimes it takes the other people to see those internal gifts for us to be like, ah, yeah, I do have something. I do have something. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I will say one other thing though, really quick, as I was thinking about it, like I was making content and like creating these videos and stuff. Um, but I ultimately ended up being able to use that same gift at work and like make further impact on people. So like, I was in a position where I presented a lot. I did onboarding training. And like part of that is like meeting people when they first start, presenting on the company, giving them all that information and all that stuff. But I use it as an opportunity to connect with people, make people feel comfortable, give them a little bit of inspiration as they, embark on this new journey that they're about to step into. Like I was carrying all of that same energy in a professional setting too. And I continued to see like I connected with people over that. And it continued to reaffirm for me like you have a gift. Like it 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 doesn't matter where you use it, but you need to use it and figure out where it fits and go do that thing. Um, so that too, like it just continued to pour into that bucket for me.
yeah, nice. Yes, yes. No, I love that. I love that. And I think that when you know that you have something is when you're doing it in your everyday lifestyle, not just as a thing, right? Like, people tell actors, don't just act when you have a gig coming up, or don't just act because you know that you need to act, but how are you doing that in your everyday lifestyle? And I love what you said, that you were carrying that approach even in a professional work setting. And like that's how you knew, like, hey, this is something. This is something I need to do something with. So I love that. I love that. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced when starting out with motivational speaking, or, having that path in general, both personally and professionally?
Yeah, I would say, the biggest thing I think is when you realize that you have a gift or you're stepping into using it, is just understanding that although you may not be perfect in it, using it is the overall meaning behind what you're doing. Just using it and taking full advantage of your position, right? I think a lot of times for me, um, I would kind of downplay myself and think like what I'm doing or what I'm talking about doesn't matter that much, or I'm not relaying the message as best as I could, or I'm not as good as maybe some of the people around me. Um, just kind of kicking myself as I'm trying to progress at the same time and just really being counterproductive, I think, in my life. But something I was literally talking about just last night was around like imposter syndrome and not believing that the person that you're actually showing up as, the things that you're accomplishing, that you earn them or that you're worthy of them, like that's one of the, I think the biggest things that holds us back from being all of who we're called to be. And I had to shake some of that, I think, at the beginning, to believe like, you're actually good. Like let that be what it is. Let that be what it is. Step into all of it. Embrace it all. People see it in you. It's okay for you to see it in you, you know? And that was something that really just I I stayed stuck at a certain level, like not allowing myself to branch off or to, speak in front of crowds or make certain videos, put certain things out. Like I allowed myself to stay in one place simply because I didn't think that I was any bigger or better than I actually am or than I thought that I was, So that was a big thing for me, for sure. It's just getting out of my own head, getting out of my own head and understanding that the position that I'm in, even if it's in front of 10, 15 people instead of 10,000, is exactly where I need to be, and embrace that. And whoever needs to hear my message is going to get it and maybe pass it to the next one. So, yeah, just getting out of my own way. It's just, yeah,
And I think as humans, it's the fundamental flaw of humanity is that we do get in our own way. And it's so, and I always wondered about like, the thought process. Like I'm really into like, I read a lot of like psychology books and as an actor, I feel like you have to, one, to stay sane and two, like to really help you with character development. But it's always interesting that you read so many of these case studies and so many of these stories, and the fundamental path that always leads back is how much humans get in their own way. And like sometimes the path and the answers are really super simple and we overcompensate for it. And it's like at its minute, right? At its mustard seed. It's that simple and we overshoot every single time.
yeah. We're so worried about what other people might think or, trying to do things that aren't really the direction we're supposed to be headed in. Um, Yeah, just and I've always thought like if everybody can figure out what their gift is and move in their power and their purpose, imagine what this world would look like if we got out of each other's way, stayed in our lane, lived in our power and our purpose. Everybody would take care of everything that's around us. Nobody has to do extra. Everybody just do what you are called to do to the best of your ability. Imagine what the world would look like if we could figure that out and do that. We ain't gotta beat each other, upside the head and battle for time or for space. Everybody has a space. Some people have a bigger space than others, but everybody do what you're called to do and let that be what it is.
What doors has motivational speaking opened for you?
I would say it's opened my doors into bigger and better relationships with schools and school programs that I've been able to either connect with or reconnect with. Some programs that I went through and came through myself that I've been able to tap back into in a different capacity, and be able to pour back into people. Um, and then also just new doors and just, connecting with um, primarily like high school, college age students and being able to give back in those ways. Um, I would say I would say speaking has given me a new visibility because of course I create content online around it as well. So just branching out my network, people all over the country that do this exact same thing, um, that have a certain light or visibility to me and my life. Um, and I can tap into them for insights and support, you know. It's amazing how you get into these industries and you find other people that are walking the same walk that you're walking, and you build kind of a network around them, regardless of where they live. Motivational speaking is the same way. Um, And then of course you mentioned it earlier, you really can parlay this skill into just daily life. Um, I know like I'm a young parent as well, and I find myself kind of like using that muscle to an extent with my 5-year-old and helping to get her mind right, you know? And I even think like she doesn't all the way understand it just yet, but she feels it though, and I can see it when she needs it. Um, and that's been really cool for me to kind of see that develop. Um, but uh, but yeah, and then I think this skill does, and I guess public speaking in general, it does open doors professionally as well, because this is a skill that everybody doesn't necessarily carry. You as an artist, as an actor, you carry a certain level of creativity and the ability to articulate that a lot of people don't. There's power in it, right? So, I tell people all the time, I am a presenting fool. If you give me a topic or some content and 24 hours, I'll make it happen. I'll make it happen. And, we will all be on the same page. Um, so I think it just people open their eyes and like see and hear you a little bit differently when they realize like, huh, this dude's pretty good at speaking or presenting. So it you can of course open doors in terms of business opportunities and being able to speak, but I think it's even cooler for me to use that skill in um, just different forms in life and just being able to connect with people in different ways.
I love that. I love that. And absolutely, I think in the artistic form, especially like the performing, right? And public speaking, and anything of those like using your body as movement for art. And we have something a little bit different, right? It's a presence that draws people in. Um, different from a writer or a painter, their presence is they use a fundamental object to put out there to bring people in, where we're using ourselves. And so I love that. I love that representation. That was a great ideology. I want to piggyback off of something that you said about being a dad. So, like, how has your role of being a husband and a father influenced your speaking career?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that I think those roles that I play in life, they give you or they give me a different perspective to anything that I might talk about, right? So if I generally talk about living an excellent lifestyle and what that looks like in any place or space, things that you're going through life as a dad, as a partner, as a husband, like that that puts you in these positions constantly. Like I even think about like conversations that I have um in my relationship. Like they don't always go so smooth. When they don't, how do I address them? Right? You're gonna have to take a step back, reassess where you are, and approach it with excellence, right? Or you could pop off and say something slick and then get in some, little touchy little situation. That's not excellent. And same goes, in conversations I have with my daughter. Like, she has emotions and I have emotions, and just being aware of those things. Um, and so I would say that like that those experiences put everything that I talk about into context. Even when I talk about leadership, I've talked about, making sure that you show up as vulnerable and honest as you can as a leader. A lot of that comes from how I deal with my family and navigating those relationships and those conversations and stuff. It's the same thing. It really is. It really is. But yeah, it's given me obviously a reason to push harder and like really put myself out there. Um, but I think it just also it normalizes a lot of what we talk about because it really is relatable and transferable skills and things that we talk about. We try to push ourselves through. not giving up and all those things, right? It's a mindset. I push the mindset. Like that's what positions you for success or for excellence or whatever it is that you want to pursue. It's a mindset. It starts in your mind. Um, and that carries your behavior, your mind and your heart. Your heart jacked up, behaviors be jacked up, but um, but yeah, your heart, your mind, that carries everything. So
I love that. You remind me of I don't want to get his name wrong, but I believe they call him Mr. Johnson or Coach Johnson, but he goes around to different football, college collegiate football and does talks and sits down and he's a motivational speaker. I don't know if you call any of his stuff. Yeah, I post a lot. I post him a lot on like my page and stuff like that. Um and there's one particular segment that he did that I really love to listen to, and he talks about being prepared, and that's kind of like something that you hit on when you were talking about the mind and the heart. And um, there's another gentleman that I also watch, and he's in the entertainment industry, and he also kind of hit on the same topic. And they always talked about, you know, actors come in and they think because of their talent, or anybody, football players, NBA players, hockey, they come in and they say, I'm talented. And they fall on their talent and they think that their talent will get them as far. But then they bump up against somebody who's not only just talented, but prepared. And then when they bump up against somebody who's prepared and talented, it rocks their whole world, right? Because they were like, I'm talented, born talent, right? But then they hit a cat that was prepared and talented. And it shakes people who come into a situation with just talent alone. And that's where we talk about what you said about putting in the work in the head versus the heart and the mind, and putting in the work and grinding and learning it and knowing it, and presenting it and using it in your everyday lifestyle, and taking it and turning it into something else, right? Because then you're not only just falling on that talent, you've used that talent to be prepared. So, and I love that. That just made me think about that. Like I'm really into quotes and stuff like that. So when people hit me with like some good stuff, I'm always like well, I'm quick to write down a good one.
yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. That's like taking the energy. So like talent, let's put it this way. Talent is like having energy that hasn't been turned into kinetic or live energy, right? Like you have this energy stored up. You got this ability, but if you don't use it and really turn it into something productive, then it don't mean nothing. Like you can be talented, but if you don't use it in the right way and prepare yourself, you ain't going nowhere, just like the untalented people. You know, you'll be in the exact same place. So, yeah, I really like that. I love that.
Um, what does your I'm going to flip a little bit, and then I want to get into the mind of the motivational insight of Elijah Harris. And with that being said, what core message do you aim to convey through your motivational speaking?
So, the core message, I would say, in everything that I speak to, the core message ultimately, and I've tried to build what I speak on around a concept of excellence. You hear me toss that excellence word around. But the core of it all is really around getting people to see and ignite the excellence that lies within them, right? And when I started to think about this, I felt like, well, if someone can ignite the excellence that's in them, find it, like I mentioned about finding this skill or this ability I have to speak, I've kind of tailored it around that, right? Find and ignite the excellence that lies within them and then be able to harbor it and feed that excellence, like continue to feed the fire that lies within you, and then be able to share it. So, one, ignite; two, store and feed the excellence, feed that fire, and then three, be able to share it, right? A lot of what I talk about leans into one of those three facets of excellence. And I feel like, a lot of times people I mean, people go through different phases, different seasons in life where they find their talents, their gifts, and figure out how to use them. But a lot of times people don't really know where their excellence lies, where that passion, where that fire lies. Um, However, I use that as my core message because you can take that and apply it to everything in your life, really, you know, whether it is personal, whether it is professional, um, or, spiritual, whatever it might be, finding that fire, igniting that within you, being able to store it and then share it. And sharing it allows you to impact the people around you. And then we create a community and an expectation of excellence. So that's the core, I think, of my messages and the brand really that I've built around it. Um, so yeah, I try to stick to that. Number one is always ignite your excellence. So anytime I post something, I usually throw that hashtag in there all the time. Ignite your excellence, right? Find it, ignite it, and then we can figure out how to go from there in terms of feeding that fire and being able to share it and impact people. But people are always watching. So once you ignite that thing, you're gonna shine bright, and people are gonna be like, "Huh, he's pretty good at that," or he's shining. People see that. People see that. They're not gonna have a choice but to see it because you're gonna be shining when you figure it out and ignite it. It's inevitable.
Definitely. Yeah. 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 People love to feed on energy, right? Like yeah, I'm big on that. Like, there was a psychic that I did a thing with, and you know she was big on energy, and a lot of them pull from energy. And I was having a conversation with somebody who was like, "Oh, you know, people aren't really, what do you mean energy? We're not, magnetic. We don't have energy." And I was like, "What do you mean? We are part of the world. We exude energy. Like, have you ever created friction and touched electricity? What is that? Energy, like." And so, it's so interesting, like how tapped in I think you have to be with everything, like even the minute pieces of information of the world, to the unknown, to everything, to really, like, I think, understand it all. And I think that's a whole other topic that I can get into, and like of like people and humanity and thought process and that kind of thing. But that's a segment. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And leading into that, is there a personal story that you can highlight? You talked about excellence, right? Igniting your excellence. So, is there a personal story that you can highlight the importance of resilience and determination, and like how that all correlated in your family life and career?
It's all connected. It is all connected. You know, you want to get into the deep stuff. No, um, no, I'm with it. Um, I always think like in my young journey to 30 so far, um, the experience that really shook me the most was the time right around and after my daughter was born. Right. She was born, and at this time, like, I'm really trying to discover myself as a person. I'm in my daughter was born, I was 23, right? Anybody who's older who might be listening to this, you might be able to think back to when you were in your early to mid 20s. And, depending on where you were, you might have been just kind of running the streets, doing whatever you wanted to do. Maybe you had a degree, maybe you didn't, but you're just trying to figure out life. And that experience just really shook me to where I didn't know who I was, right? But at the same time, I was carrying the responsibility and the weight of being the best person that I could be, the best father that I could be, the best partner that I could be, like, and trying to show up and be this excellent person, right? Um, but all of that weight and that expectation I felt like I had of myself and that people had of me, that ran me into the ground. Like, I ruined friendships over that. I feel like my family relationship with like my core family, my mom, my sister, like my village that I grew up with, I basically blocked everybody out because I didn't know how to manage those relationships and, try to be boyfriend, husband, dad extraordinaire, like all at once, you know. And, in my relationship at the time, things were really rocky. Like I didn't feel like I was where I was supposed to be at that time in life. And so I didn't really know how to handle that. Not to mention, again, I mentioned I'm early in my 20s, so like I'm just trying to figure out who I am in all of this stuff, right? Let alone all the other stuff. Like, who am I? And so that really shook me. That really shook me. Led me into some depression, probably heightened anxiety, like those types of things, like those feelings. And it forced me to have to like take a step back and unpack some things, like trauma that I had built up with my mom, with my father, you know, with myself, like just, understanding that I'm worthy, like I'm lovable, like and just being able to love myself. Like I had a perfectionist mindset and I wasn't living up to who I thought I was supposed to be. And that was breaking me down from the inside out. And so all those things kind of combined, it led me to a place where I didn't like who I was, and um I just wasn't in a good place. I was not in a good place. But it forced me again to look internally, remember who I am, who I want to be, and understand that like no matter where I am or what I've done or who I thought I was, I wake up and live life the next day just like everybody else. And nobody determines that day for me but me. If I want to show up a certain type of way for my daughter, for my family in this relationship, whatever, that's up to me to choose. Can't nobody do that for me. Can't nobody choose that for me. So, that it took me some time to like put that in my head and like start to get that. Um, but that time in my life, I had never experienced anything like it. And but it forced me to grow up very quickly and start to realize like, okay, alrighty, you are not perfect, right? There's no way around it. There's nobody saying that you are. You simply are not. Um, but go with it and be the best version of you. Be the person that you want to be as best that you can. And there's nothing else. There's nothing else you really can do. You can do your best, and that's it. So um, that situation rearranged and realigned my life. And you asked about resilience. Like, while I did block out everybody for the most part in that experience, I wouldn't be where I am right now if I didn't have some level of resilience, if I didn't have a therapist and people far and near that was praying for me to get myself back on track, as best as I can. So that was that was an experience. And anytime you go through something that's like traumatic, you can visualize certain things like during that experience, places that you were, feelings that you felt, things that you might have thought, things that other people said. Like those things stick with you. They're etched in your head one way or another. Um, and so for me at this point in time, like that was that experience for me. And I'm still probably going through some of the lasting effects of that to this day, but I can definitely say I'm much further along than I used to be. So
Cheers to, I feel like this is new beginnings. Cheers to new beginnings and cheers to finding yourself and cheers to happiness, honestly. There's something that you said that really hit me, like that really touched on a pinpoint that I want to touch on. And you said going into those moments where you found yourself in a dark place, was there any moment that you were like, I'm either not going to make that, like I'm not going to make it, this is too much? Or like what was that moment that you said, okay, I'm going to dust myself off because I'm stronger, I'm bigger than this?
and think about times where literally people were like my friends and my family. I've always had a tight knit community around me growing up and everything. That's part of the reason that entire experience that I just spoke on really shook me because I didn't want to show them this side of me, this version of me that just wasn't in a healthy place. I didn't want them to see that, and I didn't want I didn't want to give that energy to them. And so like there were times when some of them were calling me, texting me, and I'm literally just like ignoring them. I'm just sitting in my apartment and just like I didn't want to talk to nobody, I didn't want to go nowhere. Like I'm just in there just surviving. Like just doing my best. And there were points in times I didn't speak and like make a ton of content during those times because again, I didn't want to be on camera. I didn't feel like I was the person that needed to be speaking to anybody because I'm jacked up. I'm jacked up. I'm not in a good place. I don't want you to see or hear anything really from me. And I would still try here and there to like be that person or find that person. Um But and then 2020 happens. And 2020 was really uh kind of a rearranging experience for everybody, but for me, that was kind of the breaking point, I would say, where I had to um I literally had to like break up out of my relationship. I had to move out and isolate myself essentially. So I moved back to my parents' house and at that point I had no choice but to look at myself and be like, what are you going to do? Are you going to get up off the mat and get yourself together, or are you just going to let all this fall apart? This is after my daughter's born and everything. So in my mind I'm like, all right, I've hit rock bottom. This is rock bottom, right? I'm not going no lower than this. I'm gonna, realign and connect myself with God and do that because I know that that's core to who I am. No matter how far I stray away from that side of my life, like I got to get back and tap into and address some of these inner demons and things that just have been going with me for all this time. And gradually, like, reconnected with myself, learning about myself, trying to stay as connected as I can, with my partner, with my daughter, like just trying to gradually get back. Um, I feel like I rebuilt myself in that time and gave myself permission to be the person that I was called to be, which is hopefully the happy, healthy, functioning human being that uses my voice to speak and inspire, you know. But that was kind of that that journey, for me, mentally and physically, I guess.
My last touchstone on that one is what was your takeaway from that whole experience from beginning to close to where you are now? What was your takeaway?
Mm. So my takeaway, I would say, is that no one is responsible for taking care of you but you. That was, I think, the biggest thing that eventually hit me. And it didn't hit me really until I moved out and I moved back to my mom's house. Because at that point, I was living with her, but I was isolated to where nobody was gonna put me back together but me, you know? And it's nobody else's responsibility to do that. You think, I mean, people are around you, people love you, people want to pour into you, hopefully, Um, but at the end of the day, the person that's standing in front of the mirror is you. Like, you have to look at yourself and believe that, like, I'm bigger and I'm better than the depressed person that I'm standing here looking at. Like, you have to believe that for yourself. Can't nobody put that into your head or into your heart and for it to stick except for you. So that's the part that really I think that I really learned the most. And that encouraged me to be able to like do more things to take care of myself on a regular basis. Make sure that I work out, make sure that I eat decent, make sure that I like, you know, talk to people because those are the as I learned in therapy, those are the pillars of my life that help support me as a person. And when I'm not doing those things, my life might crumble or things will get, a little bit unstable for me. But at the end of the day, I have to take care of me. You have to take care of you. There's people around you that can help, but you are responsible for you at the end of the day. And and unfortunately, like we can look around and maybe see some people that lose sight of that and end up they stop taking care of themselves and they blame the world around them. And man, I missed that part too. Like I kind of skipped over that. I really used to like look at everybody around me and blame all of my circumstances on everybody around me and not look at myself. And I had to look in the mirror and be like, you know what, E, what you gonna do about it? I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there.
Man, we can really we could go there on this topic for real. Uh, but we don't have the time. But no, I appreciate that honesty and that, rawness that you just put out there for everybody, because I think that's a topic. I think even more in the past, absolutely, because everything was so hush hush, sweep it on the rug, put on a straight face. We don't talk about our problems. Da, 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 da. But I think even more so, it's so important that that topic is hit on what you just said. Nobody's responsible for putting yourself back together but you. And I think that is so important for this generation and future generations to come, especially with this generation that feels like everything is supposed to be so easy for them and that somebody else is supposed to do it for them. And why can't they have a helping hand or, the spoon fed? And it's so important that we get back to that core of like, looking ourselves in the mirror, understanding hard times come no matter what, because that's humanity. But it's not the place that you start or even the place that you fall down and break down at, or even rock bottom. But it's how you climb yourself back up to that top of that mountain and how you get to that top of that mountain and how you stick your flag in there at the end of it and say, I made it. I did that. The stepping stones along the way. So E, what a motivation. What a motivation for the motivational speaker. Honestly. Appreciate you, sir. Um, let's flip it a little bit to something more positive and fun. Let's talk a little bit about family life and what does being a dad mean to you and how do you prioritize your family mindset versus your busy schedule?
That's a good question. And I would say like from the moment I became a dad and just building and leading in family, that honestly got all of my energy, most of my energy, I would say, like from the time I became a dad. Um, because, growing up for me, I didn't have my dad in the house, for most of my life. And so for me, I was like, look, whatever I'm creating and leading here is not gonna be like that. So that was like the forefront of my mind. Um, but at the same time, it's been a journey. It's been a learning experience, 100%. Um, and while you have good intentions in mind, you don't always know how to handle these things uh, until they show up in front of your face and you have to deal with them. I think from the moment you become a parent, you have the ability to handle, certain things, certain situations, even when you don't think that you do. The vast majority of us actually do. We just have to tap into some of those things on the inside that maybe you need to uncover and like use some of those skills. But it's in there. It's in there. It's in there. But yeah, but it means the world to me because you see your legacy like standing there looking at you and everything that you pour into them, they give it right back. They do. They give it right back in their behavior, in the love that they show to you. Like I said earlier, my daughter may not have the words to put towards certain things, but like, when she appreciates something or when, she has love to give or to show. Um, and yeah, it's the most important and the most challenging group project that you will ever embark on, parenthood. I can't put it in better words than that. But but it's really rewarding though at the same time. Um, and yeah, I will say though, I have had to kind of be clear and be honest with myself about how high I put being a dad on a pedestal. Because I think initially, like I said, it became my identity, and like that was just who I was because I didn't really know much of anything else about myself. I was like, well, I'm a dad, so I'm gonna be that 100,000%, you know. But but yeah, but more recently I've had to make time to pour into my passions, to lean into being a speaker, do the things that fulfill me and impact others. Because that's a part of the impact that I make. Being a dad is a part of it. Being a speaker and being, an influence and making content and stuff like that. Like that's a part of it too. And I can't forget that. So I would say a little bit more recently, within the past year, year to 2 years, maybe, um, I've I've trying to reinsert that back into my life more than purely just being a dad and that side of my life. So trying to find some balance, I would say.
Okay, no, I love that. My mom's a teacher. I don't know if we ever talked about that, but yeah, my mom's a teacher. So I've been around child care for like since birth pretty much. So I tap into a lot of that here and there for like as my like side hustle and stuff like that. And I completely agree with you when you said that, sometimes parents have to tap into the things that they don't even want to tap into themselves to understand their child, to like help their kid better be more functional in the world and their lifestyle and the energy that they put out to themselves. And I think that's so important because, as humans, right, the flaw in humanity, we get so wrapped up in ourselves. And we forget that these are little people who are watching and observing and putting that same energy out there.
And
Yeah.
they sure do. They
Yep.
sure do. And I know, like, my daughter, she's 5, so she just started kindergarten, and I'm thinking to myself like, well, this is when you really start to see what's on the inside of her. Like whatever you put in there is about to come out, and how she navigates these things. Um, so I'm starting to see it already. School is like a month in. I'm already starting to see it. So it's real. It's real. And parents are not perfect. So whatever insecurities we might have or things that we're still working on, they might show up in our kids, but hopefully we've graduated to a place where we can help them walk through it too, just as we're walking through it. And it is a never-ending cycle, but we just do our best with it. These kids is off the chain though.
Real, that part. That part. Um, I want to tap into a memorable moment with your daughter that has shaped your perspective on life and motivation.
One of which is it's kind of funny, to be honest with you. It's not even really serious. So not too long ago, and she watches me like make videos sometimes and edit and stuff, so she hears it a lot. And so when I open a lot of my videos, I say, "What is up, good people?" She at this point can imitate me and do it just like I do. And I found that to be really funny, but I also found it to be kind of flattering at the same time because it's like she be watching and she be picking up on it and she likes it. So it actually kind of tickled my heart a little bit. Like, dang, she taking after me a little bit. So I think that's kind of funny. It's just a moment. And I sit and actually like record with her on occasion, just like she likes to talk. Um, but yeah, another moment. Let me think. I would say the moments that matter the most to her is anytime we're just doing something one on one. Um, Taking her to like get frozen yogurt. Like she internalizes that as, oh, this is daddy daughter day. We're going to get frozen yogurt and this means the world to me. Or um when we're singing and dancing in the kitchen or something like that, like that, those are the types of things that matter the most to her. And I can tell because that's when she naturally shows the most like excitement and joy. I know this summer, us going to get frozen yogurt and dancing and singing and all that, like those are the types of things that really highlight for her. She's also a Disney kid. We've been to Disney World a couple times and ridden some of the roller coasters and stuff there. So when we can't go to Disney World, we'll pull them up on YouTube and she'll just sit on my lap and it'll be like we're on the Peter Pan roller coaster, and she's just bouncing up and down on my legs, and I'm turning her and turning her. Um, so I don't know. It's the small things. It's the small things for me, you know. But in terms of motivation, she and my family, they give me that energy to want to get up and keep going. Um, just that reason for doing what I'm doing and just trying to be the best version of myself. That's what it comes down to for me, you know.
I love that, and I thought that was a really cute point to hit on, just the fundamental of, like, the little things where you said that even when you guys can't go to Disney, you're pulling it up on YouTube, she's sitting on your lap, and you guys are, like, you're there, you're creating a nice creative for her, and you're tapping into her world, and I think that's, super important and things that she's gonna remember and hold on to when she gets older. And with that being said, what values do you hope to instill in your daughter? And how do you practice those values in everyday life?
I would say the biggest thing for me right now, and maybe probably going forward, to be honest with you, a lot of times when you're a parent, you want them to, as seamlessly as possible, avoid or navigate the things that trouble you the most in your own life as a parent and as you grew up, right? So for me, like finding my sense of self and feeling confident in who I am and making space for me to be myself, that's probably the biggest thing that I want to be able to instill in her is like you are all of who you need to be. Be the best version of you that's possible. Don't be trying to flex for your friends or trying to, do these things that make them like you or try to get attention or like any of these things. And forget all that. You be you. The people that come are gonna come. The people that don't, that is okay too, you know. But you are bright, you are beautiful, you are incredibly smart. You are funny, you are loved. Like those affirmational things, um, that like those are the things that stick to you as part of your core of who you are and what you believe about yourself. And those things alone will carry you but so far. You will have to take them and push them, as far as you really want to go as a person. But like those things are core. And if you're missing them, based on my experience, it can take some time for you to realign yourself and be like, oh, right, I feel these things about myself, or I see that like I'm smart, I'm beautiful. Like, you're going to have to do that for yourself at some point in time. But if we can do that now and get her to believe that about herself now, that is, I think, the most important thing for me in building that sense of self and understanding that you are worthy, you are loved, like and really build that foundation there. Um, so that's probably the biggest thing for me. Like, because otherwise, and I've seen it in some of my family members and even in myself, you grow up and then you then look at yourself and be like, who am I? What do I believe about myself? And you have to do the work anyway. And if you don't do the work or if it takes a while, oftentimes we can get off path and run ourselves into the ground or into a place where we didn't really belong or didn't really want to be in. And it's not necessary. If we can avoid it, if we can pour, the right things in at the beginning, like that's my biggest thing right now. And maybe it'll change, maybe I'll add to it as she gets older, but just that sense of self and understanding that you are perfectly fine just the way that you are. Um, being a black young woman, like step into all that, carry it with you, wear that crown, that type of thing. That's kind of where my mind's at right now.
Um, and the flip side of that, what best advice has your spouse given to you uh, through your guys' journey from where you started to where you are? What's the best piece of advice that she's given to you that really sticks with you?
Um, I would say she has been so critical to my journey, our journey, this entire thing. um, and they always say like behind a strong black man is a strong black woman. he can only go sometimes as far as she's going to take him or push him. But I would say one of the biggest things she has pushed in me is that I don't need validation to be myself. I don't need someone to approve me just being me, or me, feeling a certain type of way. I don't need approval for these things. When I grew up, I I was the type of person that wanted to know that everybody liked me. Everybody approved of the things that I was doing. You know, if I did something that I thought was good, I wanted to show somebody so that they could tell me that I was good too. And that, I think, carried with me into adulthood. And as she met me and watched me like interact with my family and just like do different things, she really tried to break that hold that I had in my head, like I need approval for everything. Um, so that, I think, allowed me to understand that I have a place, I have thoughts, I have feelings, I have the ability to speak or do whatever it is that I want to do, and I don't need anybody's approval for anything. You know exactly where you belong as you step into it and you do, what you're supposed to be doing. Things will fall into place. You'll feel a certain type of way if things don't quite feel right. Maybe you need to dive a little bit deeper and figure out why, but you'll feel that too. But she helped develop my sense of self, and starting to see that for myself, because before I couldn't see it. I was just living in it. And we need other people's perspective sometimes to help us see our own BS. So, yeah, that was a big thing that she's helped help me build or reinforce for myself. Um, and yeah, and it just so happened that that's something that she does really well with. Like, she didn't really have that thing to struggle with, right? So I think she was um able to see that in me and be like, I think we need to work on this. I think you need to work on this. And I appreciate that, especially, in hindsight. I definitely appreciate that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think that is so important. There is an old saying that sometimes when you're in it, you can't see it. And I think that's so, so true, right? It's so hard for us. And that's something that I practice on a regular, is stepping outside of myself and stepping outside of the situation, taking a moment, right? Because I don't think we take enough moments as people, as humans, to one, observe, and then two, realize, and then three, be able to come up with a solution on whether or not to figure out, are we the problem? Is the problem something on the outside as a whole? And then, like, how can I navigate so like this doesn't happen again? And how can I better understand it so I can foresee if I put myself in this situation again? So like we don't take the time. We don't take the time. And that's it. I'm reading this book called The Humanity Flaw. And that's such a human flaw that we have. And it does take a village. And I think that's why it takes a village for other people to come from other backgrounds to kind of see what we don't see in ourselves. So I love that. I love that for you.
Absolutely. And one other thing I'll add just really quick on top of that is, for people who have the ability, like, and just build that skill over time to be able to like kind of take a step back and look at ourselves. When you see other people who don't quite have that ability to look at themselves and see how they might be the issue, it can be kind of frustrating, because it's like you see some things that you wish that they could see, but they can't really see it. But, you know,
What are some resources, books, podcasts, other recommendations for those looking to improve their motivational speaking or family lifestyle? What would you say?
all right. So the number one book that I would say right off top, it's a book called Worthy. I've tossed this word worthy around because that has been one of the game changers for me. It's a book called Worthy. It's by Jamie Kern Lima, who she was like the founder of It Cosmetics years ago. Um, I don't put on makeup. but that's what she did. That's where she built her credibility and stuff like that. But she wrote this book Worthy, and it really just talks about finding that self-worth within yourself and being and knowing that you're worthy of everything that you have that's lying in front of you. Like I said, sometimes we position ourselves out of the gifts and the things that we have at our disposal. Um, our own, self knowledge and self confidence. We just put it all to the side and let it all go. But in that book, she talks a lot about building your self worth, and that has been huge for me. As a huge unlocking key for me. So I would definitely say that book. Um, in terms of motivational speaking, the community that I've been kind of tapped into and following is the Next Level Speakers program, led by primarily Jeremy Anderson. But Jeremy also partnered with Eric Thomas, who is kind of a mastermind in the speaker space, and Inky Johnson, who I think you were referencing before. The three of them kind of lead that program. And I haven't officially been a part of it. However, I have done like speaking engagements in the past with some of the people who are part of that community. And I've been following, Jeremy for some years and just, picking up on things that he does and how he's kind of built his speaking business and tips and tools and tricks. So if anyone's looking to get into speaking, of any sort, really, like not even just motivational speaking, they even, really kind of help people speak on any topic. It could be mental health, it could be, resilience training, it could be really anything. But they provide a lot of insight and support to building business around that and honing your skill and driving in that space. Um, so those are probably the two biggest tools that I've used myself. Um, yeah, I'll focus, I guess, on those two. There's a ton of resources out there though, but I think those two are really good. One, to unlock yourself, and then two, to hone that skill. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, yeah, absolutely. I follow the group that like, you were talking about, and Johnson, he's the guy. He's the guy.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He's
And
really
his
good.
stuff just
He's
really
really good.
it taps in every
Yeah,
time, every
yeah.
single time. Um, so how can listeners connect with you, follow your journey, know where you're speaking, when you're speaking, and just follow your path? How can they get in contact with you?
First of all, Whitney, thank you again for the opportunity to jump on and chat. It's good to see you. Um, if you want to follow me, I would love to have you join my excellence community. You can find me on Instagram, at Elijah_Harris. Super simple, really easy to find. Um, you'll also kind of dotted line see my speaking page. It's called Speak Excellence. So at Speak Excellence, you'll find me. I oftentimes post things shared from both accounts. So one way or another, you'll be able to follow me and keep up with me in my life. Um, anytime I'm speaking at a school or anything, any of my speaking engagements, I usually post them there and let you know kind of where I'll be. If it's a virtual engagement, I will share either a registration link or a link where you can tap in and watch or listen. But that's probably the best way to get in touch with me is via Instagram. However, I also do have a YouTube page. So if you search, Speak Excellence there as well, you will find my account. I too am launching or have launched a podcast. So on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, the Excellence Personified podcast with Elijah L. Harris. That is my baby that I'm up and taking off with. So, um, steadily posting content and episodes there as well. So, all of those different forums do connect one way or another, either via Instagram, YouTube, or my podcast. But if you do, follow me, shoot me a message, let me know that Whitney sent you, and I'd love to connect and chat and just keep in touch going forward. But that's where you can find me and what I have going on as we speak.
You guys know what I do. I make sure I hook all my artists up. Make sure you guys can follow them, follow all their things. We're gonna wrap it up here. It's been amazing. It's been great to see you. I learned a lot of things about you I had no idea about, and so I'm even more of a fan. I'm fangirling right now because man, you came in, like, when we met, you came in and you were just like this energy. You just had this energy about you that was like, when you came to UA, it was like you've been here, you've been working there all your life. You know what I mean? And just fit into the groove of everything so naturally, and you just networked and moved and did your thing. Like, you came in and it was like you were running the show and you were here, and then you're like, all right, peace out, because like I'm going to the next thing. I'm going on to the next thing, right? And I was just like in awe of this like young cat who came in, and like I was like, okay, okay. And then like being the only guy in that on that team with like a bunch of girls and just like rocking that out. So like
Like,
it's
y'all were something else, boy. No, but y'all were a really good team though to work with. And yes, it is really good to see you. I was sitting here thinking like, now I wonder if Whitney could have imagined that years later, after seeing, me come in and, us working on the same team for a while, like, could she imagine we'd be doing this at this point in time? Probably not. I couldn't have, you know. But here we are. Here we are.
I appreciate you, E. I appreciate everything that you're doing. Sending out good vibes and positive energy on, this journey of motivational speaking. You have a lot to say. You have a lot of inspiration to give to others. This will be the last time that we connect. So I'm going to wrap it up like I always do. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Artists Supporting Artists podcast. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation and gained some inspiration from today's guests. And remember, every artist's journey is unique, and together we can lift each other up and celebrate our creativity. So don't forget to like, subscribe, share, add a review, and share this episode with your fellow art enthusiasts. Join us next time on An Incredible Stories and Insights from talented artists all over. Until then, you all know how we end this. Always remember to spread love, not hate, and be kind to one another. Keep creating, supporting each other. Peace out.